Theoretically, when the universe was created, all the matter and antimatter collided with each other, creating the universe as we know it. Of course, a lot more matter survived the initial collision than antimatter, so matter is more common than antimatter in the universe. But that doesn't mean antimatter is not out there in large quantities throughout the universe. The sun makes it every day, and there's even theories of whole planets and galaxies made out of antimatter. So the question that you're probably asking yourself is, why does this matter to me? And that is a legitimate question. I mean, it's not like a giant asteroid made of antimatter would come hurtling toward Earth, or that anti-life exists out there, and even if it did, you probably wouldn't get into a fight with your anti-self. By that I mean that when matter and antimatter come into contact, it creates more energy than fusion. So it's basically the most powerful source of energy in the universe. And because of that reason is why we should be using it as an energy resource for basically anything we need it for. The problem is trying to get it. As I said before, antimatter is difficult to find, and it's also difficult to create, since it takes millions of dollars to make a single atom of antimatter. But scientists have created magnets that can attract antimatter. One of the most important and awesome parts of this is that scientists are trying to come up with a way to use antimatter as the ultimate spaceship fuel, so that we can go throughout space and gain even more antimatter for practical uses. And while I know this sounds crazy, considering the fact that this technology is so far off into the future that it might not even happen in your lifetime, but we do still have those antimatter magnets that can attract the anti-atoms. But we would have to send those out into space. On the other hand, I think that the amount of energy you would gain from antimatter would more than pay off for the cost of obtaining it, since a single pound of antimatter would power a whole country for years. Now that you know the practical applications of obtaining antimatter, the next question would be, how safe is it for our environment? The answer to that is it's safer than solar energy. It releases no gases into our atmosphere, and it gives off no radiation, although the last real problem with antimatter is containing it, since after a while it disappears. But scientists have recently made huge improvements to their containment devices to hold on to the antimatter for longer periods of time, so it's not too bad to assume that in the near future, most of our energy could come from antimatter, and while I know this still sounds crazy, there's still worse ideas.